All right, we'll start our study in 2 Chronicles and chapter 22. If you'll get your Bibles open there. We will begin and deal this evening with the reign of Athaliah. I hate to call her a queen. and then Joash. So look at those two reigns. As we begin this, let's kind of get ourselves oriented. I know every time you come back, even though it's only a week, at least for me. Of course, I've looked at 15 different texts and studied all kinds of different texts in the meantime. But I come back to this and go, okay, what king is where here? It can be very confusing, obviously. So just a little lead up here. We remember that, especially in Jehoshaphat's reign, we have a turning point in Judah with the marriage alliance that he makes with Ahab. And then with that alliance, of course, his son marrying Ahab's daughter, who is Athaliah. And this leads to a number of things, of course, that sets up the fall of Judah. So this is a really significant turning point, even though Jehoshaphat in the book of Chronicles is presented as a really good king. He does a tremendous number of good things. God blesses him in many different ways. The thing that keeps hanging him up is going back to play patty cake with Ahab, and that keeps getting him in trouble. And it also sets up, of course, the following reign. So giving you approximate dates here, by the way, all the dates when you're looking at the dates of the kings of Judah and Israel, those dates are give or take a few years here and there. I looked at about 3 different sets of dates today, and they're all 2 or 3 years different. So you're getting an approximate here is the idea. But the reason I want you to see the dates, not that any of us are going to remember those, but you see the dates, is you're getting a little idea as we move down toward those real significant 200 years, 800 BC to 700 BC, and then 600 BC to 500 BC, as you're getting toward the end of Judah and the end of Israel first. Remember the date of the end of Israel. Man, I meant to bring you guys a chart of dates. I'm going to do that. But key date on the end of Israel, remember? I know some of you do. Teresa does. What? 7/20. Thank you. 7/22. And again, one of those dates that you can see both those numbers. Most everybody I read now is 7/22. Back when I was younger, I'd always read 7/21 with the date. I don't know why somebody said that wasn't close enough. So anyway, you have 7/22 is the date when Assyria comes in and conquers Israel, and that's the end of that nation forever and ever and ever. Northern kingdom goes away. So then that period of time, and then of course as we get into 700 to 600, that 100 years, you're moving toward Judah's fall, and they deteriorate over a period of that 100 years, and then finally in 605 are taken into captivity by Babylon. You have 3 carryings away into captivity. So we'll get to that later. All right, so just showing you how we're moving toward that. Really, you don't have a literary prophet yet. We obviously see lots of prophets as we're reading here in Chronicles, but you don't really have a literary prophet yet that we know of. Some people might get Joel in those later days, but that doesn't make sense to most. It doesn't make sense to me. I think Joel's more in the later 600s. Anyway. You're seeing that take place. So as we mentioned, Jehoram then, who is the son of Jehoshaphat, marries Athaliah. Jehoram, of course, is just an absolutely wonderful king, somebody you would like to have knocked off the first day he was king, because he killed all his brothers. So really nice guy. All right, and then Jehoram reigns here these about 7-8 years. And the Philistines and Ethiopians, as we studied last week, come and take all of his sons away except for Ahaziah. So he has one son left when they all take it away. So that leaves us Ahaziah. And then Ahaziah reigns only 1 year. He is really a horrible person. And of course, all of this is mentioned in the Chronicles time and again, that the reason Jehoram is horrible is because he married a horrible woman. And the reason Ahaziah is horrible is because his mother is the same horrible woman, Athaliah. So you keep seeing that influence here that comes in both of those places. So last week we looked at chapter 22, 1 through 8. And this is the reign of Ahaziah. It's very, very short-lived. Do you remember the guy named Jehu? He is king of what? King of Israel, northern kingdom. Remember, he is specifically appointed by God. God sends a prophet to him who anoints him and says, I want you to go kill Jehoram, or I want you to go kill Joram of northern kingdom, not Jehoram of southern kingdom. I want you to go to kill Joram of northern kingdom. And it just so happens Ahaziah happens to be visiting Joram of northern kingdom when he comes to kill Joram. And so Jehu goes, whoopee, I'll kill Ahaziah and all his brothers too. And God goes, good job. I thought that would be a great idea, and that's why I wanted Ahaziah to go visit, and we got you both at the same time. You just want to sit in the throne room of God and watch some of those decisions. This really kind of cool to see God going, okay, here's how we're going to do this. I'm going to talk Ahaziah somehow into going and visiting Joram when he's getting well from his battle, and then I'll send Jehu at the same time. And I know Jehu, he'll take them both out, and I'm going to be very happy about that. And so that's what God does. All right, so we saw then Ahaziah only living 1 year because Jehu kills him. Now that leads us then to Athaliah. From about 841 to 835, reigns about 6 years, murders all the royal family. Only Joash is left. So let's start with that in 2 Chronicles 22 and verse 10. And we'll get going then here with the reign of Athaliah. Now when Athaliah, the mother of Ahaziah, saw that her son was dead, she arose and destroyed all the royal family of the house of Judah. But Jehoshabeth, or in King, she's called Jehoshabah. So just to make you know that. So Jehoshabeth, the daughter of the king, that's daughter of King Jehoram, who is dead, not the daughter of Ahaziah. The daughter of the king took Joash, the son of Ahaziah, and stole him away from among the king's sons who were about to be put to death, and she put him and his nurse in a bedroom. Thus Jehoshabeth, the daughter of King Jehoram, and wife of Jehoiada the priest, because she was sister of Ahaziah, hid him from Athaliah, so she did not put him to death. So, I'm really bad at relationships, as I illustrated last week. I just call them all brothers and sisters. But so how is Jehoshabeth related to Joash? Is she Aunt Jehoshabeth, right? Okay. So his aunt saves him, and he's just a baby, and saves him being put to death. It's kind of a little weird. Isn't that mean that Athaliah is trying to kill her own grandson? Yeah, it's kind of what I thought too. Nice lady, huh? Why would she want to do that? Anybody got a brilliant idea?
She's asserting her power over the throne.
Yes. She's the woman. She doesn't want anybody else to be king, and she wants to be. None of us think that way, but that's definitely how she thinks. So notice that Jehoshabath is wife to Jehoiada. Jehoiada is the good guy. He's the priest, and he's the good guy, and she happens to be his wife. So Jehoiada has married into the family, really, of Ahab, and yet she is a godly woman, and she then is going to save her nephew here. So verse 12, and he remained, that's Joash, remained with them 6 years hidden in the house of God while Athaliah reigned over the land. So house of David becomes nearly extinct at that time if it weren't for her. She saves this situation, being married to Jehoiada. Now here's where you're going to see a contrast as we get farther than this. There's going to be a real special emphasis on the work of the priest and the Levites. And we'll see that in just a second. But first I want to point something out about verse 12. Notice that she has some leverage here. Since she is in the royal family, she's able to grab him and take him and give him to some of the individuals that would be able to take him into the house of God and hide him. And she has a nurse for him, obviously a wet nurse for him, that will take care of him. And then he stays in hiding for 6 years. That's kind of weird too, isn't it? I mean, he's not going to go outside. He's not going to go. He's going to stay in hiding for 6 years. Yeah, Michael.
Her name means Jehovah is an oath, or Jehovah has sworn.
Really?
So, to that point, I mean, if he doesn't stay alive, the line of David is done, right?
Good morning.
So, God is certainly working here because he has to keep that promise.
That's exactly right. And you see then that it's interesting that this is so typical. I think we may have mentioned that briefly last week, but it's so typical to see reading about something that we just go, well, there's history. And yet, we can also see embedded in it, God is behind it. And God is doing these things. Even though the text doesn't always say that, it's obvious because of the promises God has made. So that's
She's pretty smart because she knows Athaliah's not going to come to pass.
Probably. I wouldn't put anything past that one. Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, but that was you're right though, Wayne. It was a perfect place to try to hide him away from everybody, and especially not to have any suspicions or things like that. So that was the optimum place to hide him. All right, so what I want you to see in these next two chapters, if you read this text, you would have noticed this. There's a lot of emphasis on the priests and the Levites, and I want you to think about, as we go through this, what that does for us and what that should teach us. All right, so chapter 23 here now, 1 through 15, is going to show us the overthrow of Athaliah, and this is going to be especially where Jehoiada is responsible for this. So let's notice the text, verse 23:1. But in the 7th year, Jehoiada took courage. And by the way, while I'm reading this, just note a few things that you'd like to point out that you think is important here instead of me just telling you, okay? So look for things here. So he took courage and entered into a covenant with the commander of hundreds, Azariah, the son of Jeroam, Ishmael, the son of, and these guys. Verse 2, and they went about through Judah and gathered the Levites from all the cities of Judah and the heads of the fathers' houses of Israel. And they came to Jerusalem, and all the assembly made a covenant with the king in the house of God. And Jehoiada said to them, behold, the king's son, let him reign, as the Lord spoke concerning the sons of David. This is the thing that you shall do. Of you, priests and Levites, who come off duty on the Sabbath, 1/3 shall be gatekeepers, and 1/3 shall be at the king's house, and 1/3 at the gate of the foundation. And all the people shall be in the courts of the house of the Lord. Let no one enter the house of the Lord except the priest and ministering Levites. They may enter, for they are holy, but all the people shall keep the charge of the Lord. The Levites shall surround the king, each with his weapons in his hand, and whoever enters the house shall be put to death. Be with the king when he comes in and when he goes out. The Levites and all Judah did according to all that Jehoiada the priest commanded, and they each brought his men who were to go off duty on the Sabbath with those who were to come on duty on the Sabbath, for Jehoiada the priest did not dismiss the divisions. And Jehoiada the priest gave to the captains the spears and the large and small shields that had been King David's, which were in the house of God. And he set all the people as a guard for the king, every man with his weapon in his hand, from the south side of the house to the north side of the house, around the altar and around the house. Then they brought out the king's son and put the crown on him and gave him the testimony, and they proclaimed him king. And Jehoiada his sons anointed him, and they said, Long live the king. When Athaliah heard the noise of the people running and praising the king, she went into the house of the Lord to the people. And when she looked, there was the king standing by his pillar at the entrance, and the captains and the trumpeters beside the king, and all the people of the land rejoicing and blowing trumpets, and the singers with their musical instruments leading the celebration. And Athaliah tore her clothes and cried, Treason, treason! I just like to visualize that one. Then Jehoiada the priest brought out the captains who were set over the army, saying to them, Bring her out between the ranks, and anyone who follows her is to be put to death with a sword. For the priest said, Do not put her to death in the house of the Lord. So they laid hands on her, and she went into the entrance of the horse gate of the king's house, and they put her to death there. All right, so this is one of those things that you can tell this story to your 5 to 7 year olds, boys, when they go to bed at night. They'll go rah rah, That's no, I did with my boys. They're like, yeah, get her. So there you go. Okay, what are some of the things you noticed there that we should highlight as to how Jehoiada handles this? Go ahead, Michael.
Verse 1, in the 7th year, there's something to be said there. It's a picture of a Sabbath, right?
Yeah, good. Yeah.
She's this unrest that she's had over the land is being thwarted, and they can come to rest.
Time to get rest, and he's going to mention the rest later on. That's exactly right. So that makes Joash here, by the way, 7 years old when he is going to begin to reign. We have a 7-year-old boy in this congregation, and we surely do with all the kids. Judah is 7? Yeah! Yay, Judah. You imagine taking a 7-year-old like Judah, just put the crown on their head and the whole thing. You're going, thank you, God, for Jehoiada and his wife, because they are going to raise this son and try to get him to do the right thing. It's just funny for us to even consider, but this is the only way they're going to bring sense back to the nation. They can't wait till Joash turns 16 or something. Do you remember the other young king that's still coming? Yeah, you got Josiah. He's 8 years old when he begins to reign. So becomes a good king. So anyway, so you see that. Good. What else do you notice? Yeah, good. They make a covenant in verse 3. The assembly made a covenant with the king in the house of God, and so and this is not the only time this covenant is used. You see it in verse 1, entered into a covenant with the commanders of hundreds. So there's all these covenants that are being made during this time, and we're going to see more of it a little bit later. So you think of the value of a covenant. We're all making promises. He gets the people, he gets the armies, he gets everybody to go, yes, we need to do something about this woman. It doesn't seem that there was a problem finding enough people to get rid of this wicked woman. It's, I mean, she's Jezebel the second, and they don't want her around. All right, what else?
The Levites never seem to be a very aggressive people.
Well, I think the first time we learn about Levites is Exodus 32. When Moses comes down from the mountain and everybody is worshiping idols, Moses says, "Who's on the Lord's side?" And the Levites jump up and say, "We are." And he says, "Slaughter them." And the Levites kill 3,000 people. You know, this, I'll tell you why, from a preacher standpoint, this is impressive to me, is to see these priests and Levites going to battle, doing the right thing, leading, and then doing what is necessary to get rid of this woman and get rid of the enemies of Israel. What do you read? What do you see when you see a movie and there's a preacher in the movie? Well, he's a little wimp. And he's a compromiser, and he's in everything else, and you hate him. You always hate him. There's rarely any time you don't hate him. He's just terrible. And, you know, that's Hollywood for you. But here, not so. These people are the leaders. Now, when you think about that, you think in terms of post-exilic people reading this, and who is God expecting to step up to the plate? Priests and Levites. When you read Hosea, Isaiah, Amos, etc., who's supposed to be stepping up to the plate? Levites and priests. Who's failing every time in those passages? Levites and priests. So this is a strong message to post-exilic people on how to bring about restoration. Priests and Levites, you are the ones who have to lead this. For one thing, post-exilic people aren't going to have a king. So who's supposed to step up? Priests and Levites. It's a very, very important picture. Danny?
I think one of the things that's brought out here is that it calls them the commanders of hundreds. They were a real minority.
Yeah.
But yet the point here is that truth is truth. And truth has to be committed to and has to save the day.
That's right.
And it doesn't make any difference that they were outnumbered. They were not outmatched because the Lord was with them.
That's right. And that's, I mean, it's a good point too, because the emphasis here is that this is defending truth. And in this particular case, we're talking about a theocratic nation, a nation that is run by God, and it's not like you would place it exactly the same way you maybe would in the United States or something like that, but this is a matter of battling truth against the lies and immorality of Baal and Baal worship, and these are the two gods. The Baal worship God, and the other gods that were going on, and the Lord, the true God. And so here's how this was going to do, and this is what God wanted to happen.
Seems like their leader is kind of a version of Joshua, because you've got this priest that hides this kid, and later on we hear that he lives 130 years.
Yeah.
This is a guy that God blesses and lets him lead all the way through this episode. So they're following a pretty strong guy.
Yeah, they are. And I think Jehoiada is the only guy in the Bible we are told lived 130 years. 130 is just kind of a unique one compared to the others. Danny?
And the thing about it is, the real minority was, there's probably maybe 5 or 6 people that knew about this.
Oh, yeah, if that.
Yeah.
Yeah, if that.
And yet they were truthful to what the Lord needed done.
That's right. And that emphasizes that first line, Jehoiada took courage.
And so when we teach, realize we're in a minority. We're always going to be in a minority, but truth is truth.
Yeah. And when we put God on our side, we're not in the minority anywhere. Yeah, that's exactly right. And you know, I'll tell you what, you know, you can read over that. He took courage really easily, and that's not easy. He's stepping up, and he's going to stand against a woman who will murder you if you blink. And she has the power behind her. And so he is really putting his life on the line. And, you know, just thinking about book of Revelation and the Christians who dealt with persecution and their life was on the line. And the Lord keeps saying, don't keep your mouth shut. You're going to conquer by the word of your testimony. Do not be ashamed and do not be silent. Your life can be taken. And he says, whatever, I'm there. Okay, so good message for us. Good message, real strong message. All right, what else? Something else? Yes?
I think about the fact that it's mentioned that the Levites are holy. When you compare what was happening around them, there's this remnant that was determined to be set apart.
That's right. You make a really good point. Twice in this text, he mentions Levites and priests. You are the one to bring him out of the house of God because they are holy. They can go. Don't anybody else go in there. See, so Jehoiada is thinking in terms of keeping the sanctity of the house of God at the same time that he's getting rid of Athaliah. And you see that twice. He's very, very careful about nothing unclean entering the temple. Anybody who shouldn't be in the temple is not allowed to go in. And so that is another advantage, certainly, that is given there. So he's maintaining that holiness. All right? Anything else?
Is this the first time that we're getting a... It's been a while since we've had an assembly, so...
There's been assemblies talked about the whole time, and now we are getting a pretty good assembly. That's a good point there. And you'll notice in verse 11, while you're talking about that, you have all the people then that are involved in guarding the king. So you notice Jehoiada, this isn't just a top-down type of thing. Jehoiada is getting the people involved. He's getting everybody in here, and the people are in verse 10 are guarding the king after he comes out of the house of the Lord. And then notice in verse 11, what did they put a crown on his head, and then what did they give him? Give him the testimony. All right, law of Moses, you become king. Here's the law. You need to read it. I don't care if you are 7 years old. You need to read it. You need to know that. So you definitely have that. And then Jehoiada and his sons anoint him. Then don't you love Athaliah? She hears the noise of the people running and praising the king. I wonder why. See, the Chronicles doesn't. Kings doesn't mention that part. Only Chronicles does. That the people come running and praising God. Why would Chronicles want to emphasize that? Would you come running and praising God during that? You know, if you got a king, Athaliah is going to get killed.
She's going to kill everybody there. There's a good chance of it. It shows the Bible.
This is great news. How long's it been since the throne of David has been inhabited? Nobody sat on the throne of David for years. And certainly not anybody that had the quality of David. So this is a very exciting moment when the nation has just been lived in fear and all the horrible things that are going on, and Baal worship and child sacrifice with Baal worship, all those kinds of things. You get a new king, everybody's like, yay, finally, this is very good. Don't you love it that she says, treason, treason. Let's see, how did she get on the throne? By murdering everybody. Wait, I don't like this. The tables are turned here. You just want to get to heaven and see that video. I don't know. I just like to see that. Yes. Hush, woman. All right. And then again, of course, the picture in the end of verse 14. Don't put her to death in the house of the Lord. No. nope, not doing that. So here's Jehoiada again, protecting the sanctity of God's house in that regard. All right, so a lot of cool things there that we see. And now that sets us up for the reign of Joash, whereas Jehoiada is going to be the main guy. So in chapter 23, 16 through 21, there's a number of important markers here and things that we want to talk about. So let's read that text. And Jehoiada made a covenant between himself and all the people and the king that they should be the Lord's people. Then all the people went to the house of Baal and tore it down. His altars and his images they broke in pieces, and they killed Matan, the priest of Baal, before the altars. And Jehoiada posted watchmen for the house of the Lord under the direction of the Levitical priests and Levites, whom David had organized to be in charge of the house of the Lord, to offer burnt offerings to the Lord, as it is written in the law of Moses, with rejoicing and with singing, according to the order of David. He stationed the gatekeepers at the gates of the house of the Lord, that no one should enter who was in any way unclean. And he took the captains, the nobles, the governors of the people, and all the people of the land, and they brought the king down from the house of the Lord, marching through the upper gate to the king's house. Just imagine this 7-year-old. And they set the king on the royal throne. So all the people of the land rejoiced, and the city was quiet after Athaliah had been put to death with the sword. All right, a lot of things there you should see, a lot of highlights. What do you see?
Well, in verse 16 talks about he made another covenant that he and the people and the king would be the Lord's people.
Good. Isn't that a great one? You make another covenant. Whose people are you going to be? You're going to be the Lord's people. That changes everything. We're going to be the Lord's people. And therefore, we are going to respond to the Lord, and the first thing we're going to do is do what? We're going to tear down that Baal worship, and we're going to get rid of that Baal priest. Jared.
Yeah, I just can't help but see the parallels to Jesus in his triumphal entry. Just kind of like a little mini picture of Jesus re-entering as the true king to sit on his throne.
Yeah, love it. And all the reforms that are being made and stuff. Harrison, you're going to add something on that one?
Both West.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Yeah. Chris.
In verse 21 where it says the city was quiet, kind of refers back to verse 30 in chapter 20 where it was quiet after it was back.
Yes. City was quiet. That just it gives a big implication of what it wasn't before and how bad it was. What were kings of Judah referred to? What was the name God gave the kings of Judah? All kings of Judah were considered in this category. I'm not asking that question very good. But Shepherds. Good. You read my my bad question. There were shepherds. And so when God refers to the bad shepherds, like for example in Ezekiel 34, God talks about what the shepherds of Israel had been doing. Let's run over to Ezekiel 34 right quick, because Ezekiel is writing when bad kings of Judah are reigning. And so you can get an idea of what's being referred to when we see this. It hadn't been quiet for a while. So Ezekiel 34, notice beginning at verse 11. If we had time, we'd read 1 through 10 as well, which shows what all the bad shepherds were doing. So Ezekiel 34:11. For thus says the Lord God, behold, I myself will search for my sheep and will seek them out. As a shepherd seeks out his flock when he is among his sheep that have been scattered, so will I seek out my sheep. And I will rescue them from all places where they have been scattered in the day of clouds and thick darkness. And I'll bring them out from the peoples and gather them from the countries, and I will bring them into their own land. And I'll feed them on the mountains of Israel, by the ravines, and on all the inhabited places of the country. And I will feed them with good pasture. And on mountain heights of Israel will be their grazing land. There they should lie down in good grazing land. And on rich pasture they lay feed on the mountains of Israel. I myself will be the shepherd of my people, and I myself will make them lie down, declares the Lord. That idea of keeping, there was quiet. Shepherds, most important thing they do is cause the sheep to lie down. And sheep are not the kind of animals that you can just make them lie down. They have to feel no parasites, no disease, no threats, good water, good pasture. They can lie down. The kings of Israel and the kings of Judah, so many of them were not good shepherds, and the people could not lie down. The same kind of thing is true with the church today. When we do not have good elders, the people start scattering and they cannot lie down. So it's an important principle. Wayne.
How about verse 20, where it says, the people that Jehoiada God took by in was the captains, hunters, and nobles, the governors of the people, and all the people of the land. This was a message probably to the most people coming back too, that there's not a privileged class here.
That's right.
Everybody needs to participate.
That's good. That's a good observation. Very good. That is one of the emphases that we have seen over and over again. This is not, and you know, that's one of the things you saw with David too. David always connected to the people. Until he did the Bathsheba thing and didn't do too good. But up to that point, he was very good at connecting with the people, never exalting himself over others and thinking of himself better than others. He was just not that kind of guy.
That's what should have happened when the Messiah showed.
Yeah.
But the people in power didn't want to give up power.
No, that's right. They want to give up power. All right, good observations. What else do you see in this text?
Lord's temple being returned back to the Levites, and then offering sacrifices.
The what is returned?
So the work at the Lord's temple being returned back to the Levites.
Good. So it's getting the temple work back to the way it's supposed to be. The priests and Levites getting all the things in order. So it's a really good observation, because you see that in verse 18. So under the direction of the Levitical priests and the Levites, and they put the charge of the house, and then they burn offerings are done, and this is all written in the law of Moses, rejoicing and with singing and according to the order of David. All right, so you see that. Now tell me something else about verse 18. Give me a summation of what's going on in verse 18. One word summation, if I give you even a little hint. Restoration. Yay, Joshua. You get to go to heaven. That's good. I like that. Restoration. Absolutely. You see everything being restored back to what? David and the law of Moses. So David, of course, is with the temple stuff and how he put all the singers and everything in charge, and the law of Moses, of course, setting the foundation for how the temple has to work and how the worship is to take place. Restoration. You're going to see the same thing when Josiah comes in, after the wickedness of Manasseh, etc. Josiah's going to come in, and it's going to say it again, according to the law of Moses and according to the way David put the charge of the Levites and the priests. Now, what specifically did David especially, now he, of course, planned the temple and all those good things, but tell me, be a little more specific as to what David organized as far as Levites and priests. What was what primary jobs did he organize? Okay, worship, but Yeah.
Says he assigned.
Yeah, how that was supposed to happen, who was supposed to do it. Yes. Okay, good.
There were thousands of people responsible for all the duties that happened around the temple, keeping the gates, taking
Right.
the food.
And everybody had a place. Everybody had a place in doing this. That's right. So everything goes back to David's charge. Now, there's one little thing. You've got it all of those things are correct, and I was hoping you would note that. And all those things are correct. And there's one other little specific thing. You notice at the end of verse 18, with rejoicing and with singing according to the order of David. What did David do and designate as far as the order of, as far as the rejoicing and with singing? What did David designate? What did he command? Or appoint? What?
Musicians and those who play the instruments.
Yeah, the Levites and priests, especially Levites, who were given the charge to play the instruments, what instruments they were to play, and the singing they were to do. Only the Levites. Only the Levites. When the temple is taken away, when the law of Moses comes to an end, so does that particular job, along with the burnt offerings, the candlestick, the whole thing, and all the worship of the temple has to do with what went on and how the Levites were there. People love to indiscriminately say, well, back in the Old Testament, they had spell music. No, they didn't. They had Levites and priests who were designated to do this in the house of God. When the temple was gone and synagogue worship began, what went on in synagogue worship? No music, no instruments. Singing, no instruments. Pretty impressive. And the Jews lived then for years in synagogue worship till the temple was rebuilt, and then Levites and priests ordered to get back to their work, and they could do that in the temple and in the worship that had to do at the temple. And once the temple was gone, no more instruments. That was it. What were they allowed to do? What they were allowed to do before, sing. So synagogue worship, and most of you heard me mention this before, but synagogue worship was something that looked identical to our worship, with one exception: we take the Lord's Supper. And on the first day of the week. So, can't take and go, well, let's snatch something out of the Old Testament that had to do with the temple. If you're going to take the instrument out of the temple and place it in the church, then you better grab your burnt offerings, and you better grab the Ark of the Covenant, and you're going to go crazy. You can't do that. You can't just choose one thing. Those were all involved inside the temple. Why did it end in 70 AD? Because no Jew after 70 AD could prove they were a priest or a Levite. And if you meet a Jew, don't ask this right away, but if you meet a Jew, as I did when I was a young kid, and said to Mr. Chorney, "It's nice to meet you, Mr. Chorney. What tribe are you from?" He said, "Tribe of Moses." I said, "Well, Mr. Chorney, there really isn't a tribe of Moses." "Yes, all us Jews from the tribe of Moses." No, I said, "What about like all these tribes?" You don't know. They don't know. So if you don't know, as you see in the beginning of the book of Ezra, if you can't identify legally what tribe you are from, you cannot be a priest, and you cannot be counted as one who can do the work of a Levite. And that brought it to an end. See how God, by the way, since we have was that second bell? First bell? Okay, good. So I just read one little verse here in Hebrews chapter 8 and verse 13. Hebrews chapter 8. So in speaking of a new covenant, He, that would be God through the prophets, He makes the first one obsolete. And what is becoming obsolete is growing old and is ready to vanish away. He's talking about the entire temple worship. And the law of Moses. It's obsolete, and the whole temple worship is about to vanish away as the Hebrew writer writes these things somewhere in the early 60s AD. Within 7 years or so, it would vanish. It would not exist anymore. So that is your, I think, most important argument when somebody says we should include instruments in the worship. And that just doesn't hold water. All right, so what we covered here, the importance of a covenant and who we are. We're the people of the Lord, and according to the order of David, and you see restoration taking place. That's what our goal is. Always get back to the way God made it before. Very good. Thank you for your interest. And so go on to looking at the rest of the reign of Joash, and also read through chapter 25 with Amaziah. I got a few more things to talk about here with Jehoiada. All right?
I'm sure you've heard of C.S. Lewis before, the famous author. He did a lot of Christian apologetic books and famously the Chronicles of Narnia. He was good friends with J.R.R. Tolkien, who wrote the Lord of the Rings series. And they had a book club together at Oxford called the Inklings. You may have heard of that before. And they would get together with this group and they would review each other's early manuscripts of their books. And there was another author that was part of this group named Charles Williams. And if I had to guess, you probably haven't heard of him before. But he was also a Christian fiction writer in the 20th century. And Charles Williams died at a relatively young age of 58. And in one of his books, C.S. Lewis, it's called The Four Loves. When he's talking about friendship, he wrote about the death of Charles Williams. And I want to share this quote with you on the screen. If of 3 friends, A, B, and C, A should die, then B loses not only A, but A's part in C, while C loses not only A, but A's part in B. In each of my friends, there is something that only some other friend can fully bring out. By myself, I am not large enough to call the whole man into activity. I want other lights than my own to show all his facets. Now that Charles is dead, I shall never again see Ronald's reaction, I was talking about Tolkien, to a specifically Charles joke. Far from having more of Ronald, having him to myself now that Charles is away, I have less of Ronald. That's a really sad quote, but I think it's pretty profound. Do you get what he's saying there? He's saying when you lose someone, you don't just lose them, you lose the parts of other people that they brought out. So, 2 quick points on that, and then we'll sing a song. First, as it pertains to this community of believers, do you feel valuable in this group? Like you are an integral part of this community? Well-known proverb in Proverbs 27, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. Charles Williams brought out something in Tolkien that nobody else could bring out. And I think that a principle applies to our church here. If you feel like community is not needed in your life, consider this quote. By myself, I'm not large enough to shine my light on you and the full person come out. But when we're all shining our lights on each other, that's when the true person comes out. So your job as part of this community is to shine your light on every other person and bring out something in them that only you can bring out. And that's an encouraging thought for me. When I feel like I don't belong here, or when I feel like I'm not good enough to be here, there's something within me and within each of you that if it wasn't here, we'd be missing something. And then the second point is this. Well, let me back up. There's a fairly popular quote by Robert Southey, who was a poet, about losing someone that goes like this. The loss of a friend is like that of a limb. Time may heal the anguish of the wound, but the loss cannot be repaired. I've been thinking about that today, and that's not true. That's not true for the Christian. God has promised us that He's going to make all things new. So whatever loss that we have in this life, it's going to be redeemed one day. We should talk about that more. Pain on this life, on this earth is really hard, and grief is really hard. But we serve a resurrected Savior, and death is not the end. Praise God. Praise God. So I want to just finish with Revelation 21, verses 1 through 7, and then we'll stand and sing. And then I saw a new heaven and a new earth. For the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. And I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, "Behold, the dwelling place of God is with man. He will dwell with them, and they will be his people. And God himself will be with them as their God. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and death shall be no more. Neither shall there be mourning, nor crying, nor pain any more, for the former things have passed away." And he who is seated on the throne said, "Behold, I'm making all things new." Also he said, "Write this down, for these words are trustworthy and true." And he said to me, "It is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. To the thirsty I will give from the spring of the water of life without payment. The one who conquers will have this heritage, and I will be his God, and he will be my son." Loss is the worst. Don't wish it on anyone. Praise God that this is not the end. Let's stand and sing. I am told, sweet dreams,